Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Makers Experts Cafe. I'm your host, Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer, and I am super excited to bring a good friend of mine here. I have a lot of respect for this lady. She shows up in our community with amazing energy. She's heart-centered. It is my pleasure to introduce you guys to Miss Deb Lewis, Colonel Deb, as we call her, and you're going to find out why. Colonel Deb, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. And audience members, thank you for tuning in. Can you tell our family members what you do and why this is something that's important they should pay attention to?
Thank you, Dr. L. I I love what I do because it changes lives. And I know that you do too, every single day. And it's because that it's not that we need to be fixed. We just need, there's something we don't know. And if we just knew that, our lives would be so much richer, so much better. We wouldn't be triggered by things. And I've been in heavy pursuit of that. Now, I did engineering in the military for 34 years. I was in the first class that went to West Point for women. It had been around 174 years before that, but they were not. It was a social revolution. It was one of those times where they didn't like me for what I was, not who I was. They didn't even know who I was.
Well,
And
first of all, congratulations and thank you for your service. I appreciate it.
thank you. So when you're thrown into a situation, now I knew it would be tough. My father had gone there. I'd never visited as a child, but I knew that my father had been in the military. He'd served in World War II. He went to West Point after that, and then he served for years. I don't want to say, I think we got up to 40 something years. I know he served amazing amount. It was very successful. And so it wasn't an easy life having to move around a lot as a kid. We didn't have the computers back then. It may be hard for people to imagine. We didn't have cell phones, so if we left a place, that was goodbye to our friends, and we'd never see them again. And only now, high school, I've been able to reconnect with, but it just wasn't that way. And so when you're moving around a lot, and you also see the best and the worst of people. And I found over time, whether it was in the military or in my just everyday life, is that under stress, you see what people are made of. And I wanted to know that I could handle that. So that's why I pushed myself early and often. I encourage everybody to do that. And by going to West Point, boy, did I push myself physically, mentally, emotionally. Holy smokes, leadership. It tested and went beyond. And when I learned that I could go beyond what I thought was my potential, that's when you realize the magic happens and your relationships are better. So this is why I do what I do. And I've studied it for years and years and years. And I've had enormous breakthroughs, even in just the past year. It's just exciting to understand, ooh, if I only knew that back then, like a parent, if I only knew that neuroscience was telling me the words don't, can't, shouldn't, wouldn't are things the brain in neuroscience, they don't recognize.
Right.
So unless you want that action to happen, you've seen it with children, don't touch that. Now, logically, this is the rational brain, the hyper rational. Rational, it's not something, but if I tell the child to do that, don't touch that, what do you want to do? And most adults are just kids and never grown up. So when you tell someone, have you ever had someone do that? You can't reach 1 million people. How are you going to reach 1 million families, right? There's all these skeptics, and it's like, okay, I'll show you. And I got that kind of attitude, right? I can be really sweet and don't mess with me, especially telling me how to, I can't do something. So I think perhaps the audience can relate to that, and they've enjoyed successes. And yes, you want more of that, but you've also probably had spectacular failures. And how do you quickly pick yourself up?
Dad, you mentioned something, and Army's motto is "best that you can be," right? But
All that you can be, yeah.
right, be all that you can be. But here's the funny thing, because the comment that I just heard from you, that I hear a lot from people who actually go to armed forces, is the training teaches you that you can't even fathom what you're capable of, meaning that your abilities are a lot more than what you thought was possible or what you're capable of. So in this particular case, we're talking about the concept of resilience and the concept of being able to go the extra distance and achieve your goals and objectives. And the can't and those things should not exist or don't exist. So at what point is this becoming relevant? At what point this is just parent talk, and at what point is it really applicable to kids? So what's the youngest, for instance, that we're talking about here?
I find that even 2-year-olds, I mean, you can, I wrote a book, I did a course, I'll step back. I did a course for college students using cartoons. I find you can teach kids even as young as 2 in storytelling and showing and modeling. Now, I've seen modeling in another way. I can watch a Ninja Turtle thing and come out and kick me in the doorway.
So what you're telling me is that as soon as people have free will, it's basically time to actually go ahead and incorporate this.
Yes, because nobody told me, they told me that you need to protect yourself in being good-hearted and open-hearted, and heart-centered for everything you do, that other people's toxic energy can really and directly affect you. We have mirror neurons. We learned that. I know you learned that pretty early. I learned that in college, but we didn't understand it, the impact of that, and that we are hardwired with our brains to go to survival mode, which I will tell you our instincts stink. So I'm jumping ahead to a tip, but remember that your instincts stink under stress, because stress is the time where you've seen some people handle things so beautifully and you love to be around them. They never yell at you. You trust them completely. And then other people in the probably even lesser circumstances are screaming and yelling and blowing up and blaming you and doing those things. There's a reason for that.
Right.
And
I
that's what
always
I've been
say,
studying.
I always say that success in thriving is different than success in surviving. And for most people, especially parents, they're like, you know what, if I just keep giving of myself and I can just survive, I can make sure that I give the maximum to my kids so they can thrive. But in the process, they're also inadvertently teaching the kids through role modeling how to survive, and that they come second and something else comes first. And I'm pretty sure that it's no parent's intention to teach that to their kids, that they come second and they need to sacrifice and things like that. So let's talk about resilience a little bit, because this is an important topic. I mean, we have been having shootings at schools. There is suicide that's on the rise. There's all kinds of horror stories and things that happen locally within families and communities, and also globally as well, that
Yeah.
shows the resilience of people, their ability to tolerate and stress and negativity and adversity seems to be affected these days. That although we are living in a world that is more globalized, more connected, more possibilities, at the same time, people are becoming less and less resilient to stressors. So what are the challenges that you see and you hear from parents when they come to you?
Well, it really is the reason I use the word mental toughness.
Right.
And the newest word this past year, mental fitness. And
Exactly.
I've used similar language, but it's more widespread understood, mental fitness. This is a new concept for people. We do not teach this at home. This doesn't, you can't, we talk about a lot of things that aren't taught at home, but the ability to handle these things, very rarely are you going to get the role model where they're thriving, especially these days when it's kind of like being in combat. I mean, if you have firefights happening all around you and no one is trained, or you have been properly equipped and you haven't been properly trained in what to focus on,
Mhm.
then you get out of control. When you're out of control, one of the things you want to do, we have this saboteur in our head says, I have to be in control. What if you can actually use all of you and go what to see the situation, or at least the things that you can influence and make a difference in that scenario. It may be the difference of you want to react, and remember I told about instinct to teach you that this may not be the best way to influence that situation, especially with our kids. Come on, we know there's a new rule. If someone else says it, it's kind of like in some jobs. Someone else says it, the children respond. If you say it, forget it. Why is that? I'm not sure. I haven't pinpointed all of that, but I sure learned a lot that I wish I knew as a parent when
Yeah.
my daughter was young. But I think that there are terrible things. From the beginning of time, there have been terrible things happening. War is a natural state of affairs. It is not the exception. So if you're not prepared for what happens for conflict at the very lowest levels, how can you possibly expect to handle it at the big levels? And so
Colonel Deb, I think we lost you for a second. So I'm trying to go back
and
to,
you froze for me too.
all right. So um, this was profound that when you said that war is the natural state of things instead of the exception, and being able to be prepared for that. So of course, we don't want our families to think that they're going into battle, because we want our family life to be beautiful and pleasant and easy and smooth and all of those things, right? So what can we do to ensure that, regardless of the battles that are brought to our doorsteps, basically, what would be the top tip, the one thing that would be most important for families and parents that are listening to this, that they could implement to ensure that resilience?
I would say one is like the impression, but you know that in the world there's things happening every day, and equipped to pay attention to that, you will suffer. So what you want to learn as much as you can and become mentally fit. It's much like superheroes. If you ever saw the story of Wonder Woman, especially,
Mhm.
also America, they trained. They trained to be able to go. The thing that you want to understand is what we can control. Your mind is your best friend, but it can be your worst enemy. And when you work on mental fitness and mental toughness, you can not strengthen your brain. You can stop the self-sabotage that is probably our worst enemy. Like, we're not a good parent, or we should have done this, or there's judge that's good, bad, the overall judge. And then we have other judges. We have ones that you can be hyper rational and think that your argument, but I just shared with you, you can say, don't touch that, but it comes across not what you want.
Right.
And so unless you study it, and that's what I train people to do, I coach them to be stronger and be more mentally fit, and to look at the same situation. I have at home, I have these beautiful heart glasses. And you look at the situation completely different. You can look at it from your heart. You have that power, no matter how awful you may think it is at the moment. That's in your head. What if it's the best gift ever? And I've been through divorce. I've been through not just the war, I've been through divorce, had kids, blended families. I've had a wide breadth of experience in these ways, and made sure that if I want to improve my relationships, improve my confidence in going into tough situations, and know that I'll be okay and they'll be okay. You come at it from your heart and you can do that,
Right.
but you
Yeah.
have to be trained to do it.
Yeah, a lot of people are way up here, and sometimes you got to get down to the heart. So absolutely, well said. So how can people connect with you and find the community that is very essential for support around you and what you talk about?
Thank you so much. There are many things that are out there, but best to go to my Mentally Tough Women website. And it is, there's also mentally tough kids and mentally tough leaders, but the main site is there, and I have stress tools, and some of the sites are free. For example, I have two courses, 5,000 people from 120 countries who signed up for those courses, especially over COVID. And one is about extreme stress, because that's when we first lose it. When we face extreme stress, you could be the nicest person around. And then, like here, we had so many challenges on the internet. I could get upset about it, or I could say, you know what? It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine with you.
Absolutely.
And so we can control that. We can control our own act. We can't control what everybody else is doing, but we can control how we and make choices that help improve that. So those are the courses out there. I have laser focus sessions for those people who are really struggling, and sometimes within 3 to 6 hours, we're good.
Oh,
Because it's not that people, I say, it's not because people aren't smart. It's they're smart, but they don't know something. And if they just knew a couple things, that can be a game changer for them. I've
right.
had people quit jobs who felt horrible and couldn't go forward. I've had people who've had work for yellers, people who yell at them all the time.
Mm.
You can influence how what you take away and be greatly. These people are highly successful today. I love that. And if they want to get a hold of me personally, Deb at mentallytoughwomen.com is probably the easiest. And I know you'll furnish the other links that they can link with me on LinkedIn or other places.
Awesome. Actually, guys, I am going to put Colonel Deb is very heart centered. So I have a whole list of things that I have come up with, and she has provided for me, including a free gift. So I encourage you to go to the description of this video and check those and find ways to connect. It's also very important for us to role model the behavior that it is fine not to have all the answers. It is okay to ask for help. You don't have to do all the heavy lifting yourself. And we need to role model that for our kids so that they also understand that we are social creatures and it's okay to ask for help. So this would be a great opportunity to do that, not only find that for yourself, but also be able to see that. Also, if you haven't already done so, make sure that you connect to us by clicking the subscribe button so that you get notified of all the experts, their passions, their expertise, and their gifts that they bring to the channel, just like Colonel Deb has. And you get notified of those. And Colonel Deb, I really appreciate you being here. I know you have a lot of wisdom, all of those experiences, and sharing those and taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. Any final words for our audience members before we finish today's session?
Just what's uppermost in my mind, the beauty of it is if then the kids will. What a great question, because I was just thinking of one thing. Wouldn't it be wonderful in the families, because we help each other stay at our best, which is about what my book, Why is Pono Not Pono, talks about. And the child could say, if we're having an off day, like my daughter would tell me, she'd say, I would always ask her, what are the three most best things that happened today to her? And then when I was having a bad day, guess who asked me that question? She asked me the question, said, Mommy, what were the three best things that happened today? Because you can be so focused on the negative. And our kids, from out of the mouth of babes, they get it. And if we can help our children as young as possible, and I know you've been working 6, some of them or younger, they can handle it. They
Yep,
can handle it.
absolutely.
And the kids, the only way we're going to change the future is to educate our children, and the parents understand the difference. So
Awesome. Well said. We are the first teachers of the next generation. So that is powerful, and we need to capitalize on that. We need to make sure that we do our best on that. So thank you, superheroes, parents, for tuning in. and improving what you know about the world and the world of parenting. Thank you, Colonel Deb, and look forward to future collaborations. Cheers.
Thank you so much.